Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
It never ceases to be jarring. Joe Giammatteo.
Don't be fooled, everyone. That was Santa Claus from the South Pole.
I do have a black beard.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're not going to be examining WWE history one episode of Raw at a time here tonight. This is our annual Christmas episode, so curl up next to the fire, kids. We've got things to talk about, personal things that we are going to share with you, our listeners. We've had the annual gift exchange. We've compiled our Mount Crushmores, and we're going to serve them up to you like chestnuts roasting over an open fire. How's that sound, boys?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds delightful.
All right. Joey, do you want to kick us off with talking about what gifts you got this year?
Sure. The first gift that I got was a absolutely horrible photo of Jose Lothario and his son Pete from Ryan. Probably the worst gift I've ever received.
You're welcome.
But he did make up for it and also got me a Brian Pillman action figure, a Jax action figure. So thank you, Ryan, for those lovely gifts.
You're welcome.
And from Jason Bartlett, I have completed my set of 8x10s of the big three, Sonny, Sable, and Marlena, and he gave me a 8x10 of Sable. I now have the top 6 reasons to watch Raw. Sonny, Marlena, and Sable. So thank you, Jason.
You are very welcome. I've really enjoyed helping to round out the softcore imagery around your workstation there, the home office.
And wherever Sable was during that photo shoot, it looked awfully cold. I mean, she had to be just shivering.
It's a shame. Well, I guess that'll make it my turn. I'll start off with Joe got me the entire Buried Alive action set, complete with Undertaker, Mankind, Paul Bear, and yes, the fucking Executioner, including the tombstone that was the bane of existence of all wrestlers coming up and down that ramp for a good month. So thank you very much, Joe. I love that. And Bartlett continued his signed glossy by some of my favorites. It was none other than the wild man, Mark Marrow. But of course, he's not alone. Sable is in the picture, and I did love the story from Bartlett saying he was unable to find a wild man 8x10 that did not have Sable in it. So that is great to hear. That's how it should be.
Absolutely. It was a joy to realize that doing my eBay searching that you cannot find just a straight up, or at least at the time of my search, a straight up Mark Marrow 8x10 signed as Mark Marrow. You could find Johnny B. Bad, but nobody fucking wants Johnny B. Bad around here.
Well, you could just turn it into a 5x7, cut Sable out of there.
Well, the thing that I loved about it the most is that it's the two of them in the picture, and he didn't write over himself. He wrote over the middle of the picture, so it's almost like it's a photo of Sable autographed by Mark Marrow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what it is, really.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really poetic. So for myself, I have this little piece of toilet paper with Jose Lothario on it. No, it's not a piece of toilet paper. It's what did you say, Ryan? It's a clipping from an actual program.
Yeah, from down in Texas from 82, I believe the guy said.
Yeah, it's got Jose Lothario on it, and Pete. Pete is not named, but Pete is a youngster here standing with his pop. And special guest appearance on the back of that by Dennis Stamp.
Whatever the fuck that is.
No idea who he is, but he's wearing a belt, damn it. So he must have been something down there.
Maybe someone out there knows him.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool to find out just who the hell Dennis Stamp is so that I can have an excuse to put him facing forward whenever I frame this, instead of Jose Lothario and young Pete. That was complemented by a Jax figure of Jailbird Crush. My God.
On our recording, like 8 months ago, said I was currently looking it up, and I did. I found it with the bone-crunching action.
It does have bone-crunching action. His fist is clenched as though he is about to deliver a heart punch eventually, probably 20 minutes after beginning setting it up.
Does it have the terrible forehead tattoo?
Yes, it does, and it's slightly out of scale with the rest of the figure, which makes it that much more horrendous. The nose chain is there. It's objectively speaking, as a toy collector, this is a pretty well done toy. It just, the subject matter, it's just extremely poor subject matter. And from one Joe Giammatteo, a plaque, Alex the Pug Porto. And I mean, I can't even describe the gloriousness of this. It's the pug in his pug branded unitard, fists raised in glory, towel around the neck like the true worker he is. My God.
You are the president of the Pug Fan Club.
The photo was taken just as Alex was announced Jobber of the Year.
His highest accolade.
Yes, he's celebrating his award.
That's why he has the towel. It's that champagne shower he got. Well, gentlemen, another fantastic year. This has become probably my favorite yearly tradition.
And those are on Instagram, so
oh yes,
for the listeners out there, take a look, if you will, at those photos.
Especially of this Crush figure, because it's going to go in a box and nobody's ever going to see it ever again.
I expect that to be on top of your desk.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, I'll bring people to my house and crack open the box and It'll slowly,
don't look.
It'll murder them as they see it, like the true jailbird he is.
You'll have a yard sale this summer. That'll be the only item left that you did not sell.
Mommy, I don't want to buy that.
Well, it's all we can afford. Get it.
Again, it's really unfortunate because it appears to be a very well made and detailed figure, but God damn it, it's just Crush. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about our Mount Crushmores. For our listeners out there, our annual tradition, how poignant, with Crush here sitting in front of me, staring at me with this look of impotent rage on his face. We have the tradition here of highlighting our top 3 somethings, or maybe worst 3 somethings. And typically we put some thought into it going in and try to surprise each other every year. So, Joe, what do you got going on for us? Let's hear it.
Well, I have selected I guess we call this our favorite 3 of something. So I kept it within the Wrasslin Raw realm again this year for the second year in a row, kind of, because we are approaching WrestleMania 13 on our show. And I'm looking forward to our 3rd annual WrestleMania spectacular show that we're going to be doing here in about a month or so.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah,
so
looking forward to that.
On that topic, I decided to do my favorite 3 WrestleMania moments.
Oh.
This is not necessarily favorite matches. These 3 matches are certainly not 5-star matches, but they are my favorite moments. Number 3 actually occurred at a time when I was not even watching wrestling, but I have seen this particular moment and this match several times, and I'm sure you guys have too. From 2008, WrestleMania 24, if I said the words, "I'm sorry, I love you," you guys probably know what I'm talking about. Shawn Michaels defeating Ric Flair, ending Ric Flair's career. Some of the best in-ring storytelling that I have ever seen. And what an exit for Ric Flair, even though he has completely ruined that moment several times since then. Just a fantastic moment that has been played on over and over again. You see it all the time on Twitter and GIFs and everything else. So that is my number 3. Number 2 is from WrestleMania 18, 2002, and the 3 of us, I believe, actually watched this together at your dad's house, Ryan.
Yeah, I think
and that
you're
is
correct.
Icon versus Icon, Hulk Hogan versus The Rock.
Yeah.
Again, some great in-ring storytelling. Hulk Hogan was the heel going into this match, but the crowd did not allow that to happen. They were in favor of Hulk Hogan, and that is just a legendary WrestleMania moment. And number one, for me as a 7-8-year-old kid, I was a Hulkamaniac, and I never really liked The Ultimate Warrior that much as a kid until this moment, and that was WrestleMania 6, The Ultimate Champion. Ultimate Warrior defeated Hulk Hogan. Title versus title, something you never saw back in the day. Babyface versus babyface, something you never saw. And Hulk Hogan losing the title at WrestleMania was also something we never saw until that moment. So that is my number one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for my Mount Crushmore, it's not necessarily a best or worst list. It is my personal most influential moments or matches of all time.
Oh, okay.
So my first one is definitely not a best. You know, it's a sad point in wrestling, and it is the May 3rd, 1999 Over the Edge. It is the one Owen Hart passed away in filming. And I say it was influential because, you know, at this point, I understood what wrestling was. I knew it was a work, but I was still very much invested in the kayfabe of things, and I expected these superstars to pull off amazing feats that after this match I realized they shouldn't be. You know, that maybe there's things that they shouldn't be doing and for their own safety and for their family. I don't think anything drove this point home more than when JR said, "This isn't from a wrestling angle. Owen Hart is seriously hurt." And, you know, when he said that, it sent chills down my spine. I remember watching it vividly. It really was something that changed me as a wrestling fan, and I think probably changed the industry too. My second one is the 1998 King of the Ring, Mankind vs. Undertaker, Hell in the Cell. This is probably by far my most rewatched match of all time. I probably watch it once a year. Up until this point in my viewership, you know, again, I was fully aware that everything was worked out beforehand, and I was already starting to get to be a bit of a Mick Foley fan, watching some of his old ECW stuff, but this match, this really put Mick and my fandom of wrestling to the next level. Everyone says that wrestling is fake, but this is one you show them. When you want to show that there are people out there willing to put their entire body on the line. And after this match, you know, I wasn't alone. Many young men and kids of that time, they became enormous Mick Foley fans. And, you know, Bartlett, because of this match, I think you and me, we go out, we bought the Japanese deathmatch stuff from Suncoast. You know, this was what put Mick over and really was the pinnacle of the Attitude Era, because I don't think anything ever peaked this. This was as violent and as crazy as things were going to get.
Yeah.
And from that point, they kind of dialed it back. And on top of it, probably the most iconic commentary in any wrestling ever. Not even WWF, any wrestling. The good God Almighty, they killed him. As God is my witness, he is broken in half.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. If not for this match, there's a good chance I'm not doing this podcast today.
Yeah.
My third one, you say, what could top that? Well, what could be bigger than that? And for me, it was WrestleMania 3, Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. I was only 5 when it happened, but I remember the event. I remember this was before my dad got the cheater box, but him and a few of his friends, especially his good friend Albert, pitched in and they got the match, and I was allowed to stay up and watch it. And it was amazing. I mean, this was what started me as becoming a wrestling fan. It started it all that night. It was the catalyst. And I went back and rewatched this match and everything that led up to it, and it could feel dated at different points, but I have to say it was phenomenal. Seeing all the side characters like Jesse the Body and Rowdy Piper, and then they show footage of Heyman talking Andre into turning on Hogan and challenging him for the belt in Piper's Pit, and Hogan coming back with that memorable yes. Absolutely fantastic piece of history to go back and watch. And when Hulk Hogan finally rallies at the end and he slams that gargantuan beast. And not a hip toss, not a fucking hip toss, a legitimate body slam. It's one of those shots that are just seared into your mind, and it was a passing of the torch. You know, Andre was the biggest superstar ever that wrestling has seen at that time, but the world was about to be overtaken by Hulkamania. Even though I was 5 years old, this was by far the most memorable moment. And, you know, I said I probably wouldn't be here doing the podcast if not for the Hell in the Cell match, but I could say I definitely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Andre versus Hogan, WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, good call on that. And I mean, I still get goosebumps just thinking of that line, with God as my witness, he is broken in half. Yowza. Well, guys, for my Mount Crushmore, I got a little personal this year. You may or may not have heard a couple of these stories, but our listeners definitely have not, and I'll definitely tie you guys into one. I went with my top 3 live wrestling event experiences in my life. I was feeling pretty sentimental this year. Starting off with number 3, this was a WCW house show I went to with one of my friends that I worked with at McDonald's there out in Shenango. This would have been about 99 at the A.J. Palumbo Center in Pittsburgh. Diamond Dallas Page was the heel champion. Rick Steiner was chasing him. They had a lot of back and forth going there in their whole storyline. You know, I'm up in the nosebleeds. The A.J. Palumbo Center in Pittsburgh is more well known for basketball, so think like a basketball type setup to an arena. So up in the nosebleeds, perfect view of everything, and Rick Steiner and DDP have their championship match. Rick wins by disqualification, so of course he does not get the belt. It's a house show. That's not happening at a house show. And as DDP's walking away up the entryway, Rick Steiner gets on the mic and cuts a great promo, challenging Diamond Dallas Page to come back and have an immediate rematch. No disqualification this time. There's going to be a clear-cut winner. And, you know, DDP is doing the heel thing, resisting, coming back, resisting. And finally, he grabs a microphone and starts answering Steiner, calling him a piece of trash and that kind of thing. And as soon as DDP started tearing into Rick Steiner, and I will never forget this, I had a bird's eye view of it, somebody immediately to DDP's right tossed a full beer, a full party cup beer. Must have had quite a few beers already because it sailed over DDP's head by a good 4 feet. And in slow motion, I'll never forget it, going past DDP into the crowd on the other side and smacking a 4-year-old girl square in the face, putting her to the ground. Clear as day. Like I said, I was nosebleed, so I saw this with perfect clarity as it happened. And DDP, being the consummate professional that he is, saw it and used it as a reason not to go back and wrestle Rick Steiner. You bunch of animals here in Pittsburgh. Some guy hit the little girl with a beer. I'm not going to wrestle again for you people and give you the joy of seeing me. These Pittsburgh animals. So, again, burned into my memory. It sucks for that little girl, but one of the greatest times I've ever had in my entire life watching a wrestling show. The rest of the show kind of sucked, but
I'm sure it was a great memory for her. She still remembers it.
Yeah, it was almost cartoon-like how that full beer just dropped her. Number 2, this was an ECW house show. This would have been 1999. Down at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. I went down to that with a couple of guys from high school that were older than us. You guys would know who I was talking about if I named them. Chances are you're probably thinking of them in your heads right now. And also a certain teacher was there too that occasionally liked to hit up some of the wrestling shows. I don't know if anybody out there listening's ever been to an ECW house show, but whenever you go in, or at least whenever you did back then, they had these, I'm trying to think of what to call them. They're almost like large laundry carts at the doorways. You know, you have, because whenever you walk into any kind of event center like that, there's always the exterior doors.
Like a prison laundry thing.
Yes, exactly. It's like a 4x4 heavy duty canvas cart thing. And it was stationed in between the 2 sets of doors, but before the metal detectors. And what you would do there is you would take things for the people, for the wrestlers, to use in the ring. So as you get there, you're walking up to it and you look over, and like this cart, it's full of toasters, it's full of shovels, it's full of, one guy brought a stop sign I remember seeing in there. And I didn't know quite what to take going into it, but it just so happened that my 8-bit NES stopped working earlier that day. So I decided to take that with me. While we were there, we were sitting out in the parking lot waiting to get in, and there was a guy from 1059 The X, which is an alternative rock station down in Pittsburgh, handing out free bumper stickers for everybody. So I got one off of him and slapped a big old 1059 The X bumper sticker on my 8-bit NES. We went to go into the venue. I dumped it into the cart along with all the other shit there, and we went in. And we had a really great time. It was great seeing all the ECW wrestlers there. Towards the end of the night, New Jack came out, and New Jack's gimmick back then, part of his gimmick was to come out with a garbage can full of shit, and he would just toss the garbage can up into the ring and dump it out, and, he went straight to the weapons every time. He did not dump out my NES that night, but a week later, I was watching ECW TV on Saturday night on channel, channel 8 it was on. They had footage of either later on at that house show, maybe they had more matches, or maybe it was something the following week, but there was a New Jack match on, and with God as my witness, New Jack came out, dumped his can, and right there, coming right out of it, was an 8-bit NES with a 1059 sticker on it, and it got to a point in the match where Joey Styles on commentary yelled, "Oh my God! Is that a gaming system?" And New Jack put some poor jobber into a pile driver straight into my 1059 The X Nintendo. Very proud moment.
I wonder if that counts as blowing into the system, if that would get it to start up again.
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, I do believe the two of you were here for this one. Me and two of my best friends went to the 2001 Invasion pay-per-view in Cleveland. Such an amazing memory for me. It's right up there with the Pantera concert that we went to together. Like, the little things that you remember. I was thinking about it going into our recording today, and one of my favorite memories is I had an ECFNW shirt. They were all over the place back then. And I remember in Ryan's room, before we got further dressed up, I was cutting the sleeves off of it because we were going to be tying tassels around our upper arms. And Ryan, I just remember your mom just yelling, "Jason, what are you doing? Why are you cutting your sleeves off?"
Well, I got to put the tassels on so I could dress up as Marty Jannetty.
Oh my God. We had the neon streamers and the face paint, and the three of us tied the streamers around our biceps and painted our faces up like the Ultimate Warrior.
Way gone at this point. Way gone, but we didn't care.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was out of there by 4 or 5 years at least,
Yeah.
And everybody still definitely had a poor taste in their mouth from it.
Yeah, I mean, and it was pretty much our point of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, we were trying to be jackasses.
Yeah. We were one row off of gold circle seating. So the first, I think it was 8 rows were gold circle seating. We were row 9, and we were right back behind commentary. And again, one of those things that you'll never forget. The Undertaker came out for his match, and as he's standing there gauging the crowd, looking around, the three of us were standing up and, with our arms up and doing the woo and yelling and cheering for him. And he actually paused and just gave us the slightest, "What the fuck is that?" look.
You fucking morons. That was the look.
Yeah, it was crystal clear, and he didn't dwell on it, but the three of us definitely noticed it and marked it. Did you see that? He saw us. He saw us. So that's it. Like I said, I was feeling sentimental this year, and a lot of good times around wrestling, and I feel very fortunate to have gotten to see these events live, and especially the 2001 Invasion pay-per-view with you guys. So yeah, Merry Christmas, and I hope to have some kind of good wrestling experience, live experience with you guys again, but just, looking at the modern product, I'm not too sure about that, but I mean, maybe we can catch some Foxy boxing or something instead.
Or we could go to the next Ric Flair comeback.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
And we would have to dress up as the Ultimate Warrior for that, too.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And sing Danzig in my Jeep on the way there.
Yeah. My
You know,
God.
sadly, that was probably the only Attitude Era wrestling show that I attended, I think.
Yeah, and that was arguably the end of the Attitude Era
Yeah.
at that point.
I don't think that was the last one. I think that was maybe the second to last one, because there's a, what was it called, Ryan? We went to, it was the halftime.
But that was kind of like a house show, wasn't it? It just happened to happen on like Super Bowl Sunday or something.
Yeah,
I think.
but it was a house show, but they actually aired it during halftime of the Super Bowl. It had it was like halftime. What the fuck was that Sunday night show?
Is that the
they
one
had?
with the match with Kurt Angle versus a young and upcoming John Cena?
Yes, because to this day, I do not remember seeing John Cena. I remember seeing Kurt Angle wrestle a jobber, because that was the one and only time I ever got to see Kurt Angle.
I think you're talking about Halftime Heat,
That's it. Heat. Halftime Heat.
which I don't remember that. I remember the Rock and Mankind
Well,
match.
yeah, that was in
Yeah.
an empty stadium.
Yeah,
though. There was
right.
no one in that one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and speaking of Mankind, Ryan, you mentioned that Hell in a Cell match.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things that I remember from that show was that added to it was Mick Foley interfering in the match after
Oh, yeah,
coming down,
later.
coming down the aisle. Again, some great commentary. for
Doing
that.
a run-in, yeah.
Terry Funk being chokeslammed out of his shoes.
Yes. If anyone has not done it, they really need to go back, rewatch this match with Mick Foley commentary, because it is absolutely golden. Him just giving you these little tidbits, talking about Terry getting chokeslammed out of his shoes. Also talking later, the point you made about how he had to come back in later as a run-in. And he was saying, backstage, he was so fucked up from his match. Everyone was just like, no, Mick, just stay back here. You don't need to go anywhere. And he was like, no, I have to go out.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. As per the tradition, this is going to be a short episode, and next week we're going to be taking the holiday off to travel and do all kinds of fun shit there without the added stress of recording and editing and all that stuff, the stuff that Ryan does. And so we will be back 2 weeks from now. And whenever we come back, we're going to be talking about the Monday Night Raw that aired on February 24th, 1997, with matches featuring Little Guido, Tommy Dreamer, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason. Merry Christmas, and we will see you later.